The first thing that we want to do here is run sci-visit/. This is going to visit the home route of our application, and thanks to the way that we have things configured here in our plugins, where we specified the base URL, it's going to be relative to that URL right there. So when we say /, it's going to be relative to this full URL. So it's going to go to localhost 3000 for us, and that's exactly what it does. And because of our dev server and the way it's set up, this actually gets redirected to list, and that's working out just fine for us. So we're off to the races. We've got our app up and running. So the next thing we want to do is click on this registration button and register as a new user. So we'll say sci find by role button with the name, register, and we'll click on it. Let's save that and see what happens. There we are. Awesome. So the next thing is we want to fill in this username and password, and I don't want to hard code that. We've actually got our generate functions inside of the Cypress directory, so I can get build user from support generate. And now I can start out this test by getting the user I'm going to be using, and then here I can fill this form in. But we want to make sure we're staying within the bounds of this registration dialog, and so to start with that, I'm going to say sci find by role dialog, and within that, then I want to run all of these queries. So I'm going to say sci find by role text box name username, and we'll type the username. We'll do a very similar thing for our password and password, except you might recall that password fields don't actually have a role for security reasons, and so instead we're going to say find by label text, and we'll just pass the password as our label text and type in the password. And then finally we'll want to click on that registration button. So we'll say sci find by role button name register click. So let's watch this in action. So we'll start out by visiting the page, we fill in the username and password field, and we click the register button, and now we're logged in. And this is awesome. We can actually take a look at what the DOM looked like at every step, and here before and after that click, and then here we find by role. So here's our dialog, and then within that we find the text box, we type into that text box, here's the before and after. We find by label text, we type into that with the password that we had generated, and then we find the register button and we click on it. And here's the before and after for that. And then the app actually continues to run, and one thing you may not have noticed is you can actually interact with this thing, and it will continue to tell you what's happening within this app. It looks like we've got a little bit of an issue here, but in general, this actually works out really nicely and is a really cool development environment. On top of that, your dev tools all work just as well in here also. So definitely take some time to play around with Cypress, the app, and see if you can work it into your regular workflow. This isn't nearly all that we want to accomplish in this test, but let's stop here and just review. First off, we want to register a new user. So we use the build user utility from support generate, and then we use sci.visit to go to the home page of our app, and then we find the register button, we click on it, and then we fill in the registration form within the dialog with that user's username and password, and then finally click on the register button, and ultimately that takes us to the app in a logged in state.